When Greek historian Herodotus visited ancient Egypt to see renowned monumental achievements like the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx and study the Egyptian culture, as he explored more, he was shocked when he saw the lives of Egyptians and their approach to love, marriage, sex, and family. The Egyptian culture was so ahead of time, and their values were surprisingly very progressive. Let's see how Egyptian culture laid the foundation of today's modern value: marriage and starting a family. Egyptians were surprisingly very open about discussing everything with their children about love, biology, family, marriage, and lovemaking. The journey starts when most young men reach adolescence. They are expected to seek a partner and start their own families, with females ready for marriage after their first menstruation. The ideal marrying age for males was between 16 to 20 years, by which time they would have a job and be able to support a family. However, for royal families, things were a little different. They were expected to marry their siblings. But this practice was generally discouraged among the nobility and common people. Most marriages were arranged for the mutual benefit of both parties, with the hope that they would grow to love each other over time. Interestingly, there was no formal wedding ceremony in ancient Egypt. A woman was considered married the moment she entered her husband's house, after agreeing on the marriage terms, which typically included a bride price and reciprocal gifts from the groom's family. However, these gifts were not considered a dowry. In ancient Egyptian terms, the word for marriage, meni, meant to moor a boat or to find a house. The groom often gave gifts to both the bride's family and the bride herself. Prenuptial agreements were common, and the bride's material possessions remained hers after marriage. However, some historians believe that ring wearing at that time, a bracelet wearing, was a ritual, but it is debated between historians. Normally, both man and woman leave the house and start a nuclear family after marriage. The primary purpose of marriage in ancient Egypt was to have children, but couples were also expected to love, honor, and be grateful for each other's presence. Taking a wife was synonymous with setting up a household, and men were expected to love their wives, a duty reinforced by religion. Women were treated with almost equal status to men, as it was believed that the goddess Isis made the genders equal in power after creation. Despite this, males were still considered the dominant gender. Women were traditionally in charge of the home, and newly married couples were expected to move into their own houses. Legally, each spouse retained control of the property they brought into the marriage, and any property acquired during the marriage was considered jointly owned. There was no formal registration of marriages. The only formality was the signing of financial contracts or marriage settlements by the fathers of the bride and groom in front of witnesses. Pregnancy in ancient Egypt. Pregnancy in ancient Egypt was fraught with challenges and risks, much like in any other era. But the Egyptians had their own unique blend of practical tools and cultural mysticism to help them through it. Infant mortality rates were alarmingly high, with up to 50% of infants dying, and mothers faced significant risks during childbirth due to labor complications. To navigate these challenges, the Egyptians employed a combination of medical knowledge, superstitions, and religious practices. The Egyptians had a surprisingly advanced understanding of sex education and contraception. They utilized various methods to prevent pregnancy, some of which were quite innovative for their time. For example, they created the first condoms from linen to prevent the spread of disease. Women also use components from the acacia tree, whose gum has spermicidal properties, as a form of birth control. However, not all methods were as effective or safe. One involved inserting a mixture of crocodile dung and sour milk into the vagina, a practice best left in history. Studies have shown that certain times of the year were more popular for conception, with July and August being the peak months for baby making, coinciding with Roman Egyptian fertility festivals. December and January saw fewer conceptions, possibly due to early Christian prohibitions during the Advent and Lenten seasons. The Egyptians understood the importance of both male and female contributions to the reproductive process, but when fertility problems arose, it was generally assumed that the woman required treatment. One remedy involved a woman squatting over a hot stew of frankincense, oil, dates, and beer to allow the vaporous mixture to enter her womb. Pregnancy tests in ancient Egypt were both practical and peculiar. Much like modern pregnancy tests, one of the most accurate methods involved urinating on bags of emmer and barley seeds. If neither grew, the woman was not pregnant. If the emmer grew, it was thought the woman was expecting a girl. If the barley grew, a boy. Modern studies have shown that a non-pregnant person's urine does, in fact, prevent seed growth, making this method about 70% accurate. However, the idea that the type of seed that grew could determine the baby's gender was unfounded. Other pregnancy tests were less reliable. For instance, one involved covering a woman's breasts with oil and examining the color of the veins. Despite Egypt's reputation for medical advancements, childbirth was not a major focus in their healthcare system. There is little evidence to suggest that the Egyptians had specialized gynecological units or physician-assisted births. It is believed that other women, acting as midwives, assisted during labor. While noble women might have had maidservants or nurses to attend to them, lower-class women likely relied on friends, family members, or neighbors to act as midwives. Childbirth in ancient Egypt was a domestic affair, often taking place on the cool roof of a house or in a birthing arbor, a room annexed to the home and made of papyrus stalks and vine covering. Women gave birth standing, kneeling, or squatting, often using birthing bricks or chairs to maintain their position. The midwife would catch the baby upon delivery, sometimes placing a dish of hot water beneath the birthing chair to produce steam and ease the delivery. There is little evidence of medical tools used during labor, though it is thought that certain items, like a scissor-like instrument and a special knife for cutting the umbilical cord, were employed. Beyond the physical aspects of childbirth, the emotional well-being of expectant mothers was also considered important. Birthing arbors and bricks were often painted with scenes of childbirth and womanhood, creating a positive environment for women during this painful and dangerous process. Religion played a significant role in childbirth in ancient Egypt. Due to the high mortality rates for both infants and mothers, Egyptians sought the protection of gods and goddesses during delivery. The god Bees, the goddess Taweret, Isis, and Hathor were prayed. If all else failed, another spell threatened the gods with disaster if anything went wrong during the delivery, highlighting the desperation and determination of women in labor. The Egyptians believed that a woman in labor had immense power, capable of influencing even the gods. After the baby was born, the Egyptians employed some unusual methods to assess the infant's chances of survival. A sick baby's survival was judged by the sound of its cries and its facial expression. Parents immediately named their children, often choosing names associated with deities to ensure their protection. Others based names on physical traits or occupations, such as Pakamen, meaning the blind one, or Pakapu, meaning birdcatcher. For postnatal care, mothers were advised to eat a mouse, believed to cure various ailments and pass benefits through breast milk. Menstrual blood was also considered powerful and was rubbed on newborns to ward off demons. While these practices may seem bizarre by modern standards, they highlight the Egyptians' belief in the interconnectedness of the body, nature, and the supernatural. What if they don't find partners? For individuals who don't find partners, or for those who want to delay making a family, premarital intercourse was accepted, and there was no concept of virginity, but fidelity was expected within marriage, so they often engaged to satisfy themselves. However, forcing a girl or boy into an act was still a crime. Divorce in ancient Egypt. Divorce was possible and straightforward, with property divided according to prenuptial agreements. Women and men retained considerable freedom and rights in marriage and divorce, including custody of children and the right to keep their possessions. However, during the New Kingdom period, divorce agreements became more complex, including provisions for alimony and support. Overall, ancient Egyptian society was one of the most modern and progressive in its attitudes toward marriage, gender equality, and sexual relationships, with a strong emphasis on mutual affection, respect, and social harmony shown in many books and studied by many historians. If you like watching such interesting videos, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on our other videos. Also, check out this video popping on the screen. It will be your next best watch.